I wanted to show you two examples. So the first example, this is technically sewn correctly, you know, all of the edges you can't see. But what's the matter with it? In the chat, what is not working for this little row of squares? It's too loose. And it's not that they didn't do the stitch. And the stitches even aren't really that big. It's just they only did one row. Like that second row really helps you out. If you do a second row, it kind of tightens it a little bit more. And I think also, where was it? Oh, here is the ugly fly knot that the student did, but they didn't pull, when they put it through the fabric, they didn't pull it all the way until it like hit, till it got like stuck in the fabric. So now it can like really get loose. Just because of the ugly fly knot, because they didn't go like snug enough. So when you sew, it's not just sewing. Like obviously you guys know how to sew now. We did our pillow together, but you want to get it snug. You want it to be a little bit tighter. Because like this is the one I worked on yesterday, right? My ugly fly knot's tight to the fabric. And when you open it, you can kind of see a little bit of the stitches. Like you can see them a little bit in there, but not bad. Not like this one. This one, I barely even open it. And those stitches are really showing. So when you sew, keep it snug. Keep it snug. Now, the next example, what's wrong with this? Get a little bit closer. What step did they forget? This one might be a little bit harder to tell because you guys are just starting out. But let me hold up even those two examples together. There we go. Yeah, dang, Sasad, you're on fire right now. Yeah, so what happened is this student did it really well, right? They put the fabric over and then they stitched on the one side. This student forgot that step. They forgot that step. What they did is they just put the fabric next to each other, like a little bit. They should have put it on top and then sewn on the one side. They just kind of put it next to each other and then did the running stitch. So, and again, we're not going fast with this. Like that's why I kind of want to just show you this really quickly. We're not going fast. It's just, something to be aware of. Okay, so there's a few of you ready to sew, so we'll get started. For those of you that aren't ready, obviously this is also going to be a video, and I'm making a Google Doc with images because I like to be extra. So I'm going to get my thread ready. Hisan and Chris, I think Cesar, you're already starting to sew, so you go. Yeah, Melissa, if you're like me, and like my first square is already that right triangle, go ahead and just get those ready. Don't worry about this step yet, because this one won't be hard. Like I'll come back to this one again. Like we'll do this one again on Monday. So go ahead and just get those turned back into squares. Like sew your right triangles together, get them ready. And on Monday, I'll start again on these first two, because there's a lot of people that aren't ready yet. Okay, get my thread ready. So I think Chris, Sasadi already stitching. Chris and Hisan, you guys are ready. Make sure your needle is ready. Now, I realize that now that I'm in class, I can't lick my fingers to do that ugly fly knot. And for those of you that are in like cohort A, B, and that's the way you always like kind of got your fingers ready. What I do is I just have this like wet paper towel near me. Because again, my fingers don't have to be wet. They just need to like hold the thread. The easiest way to always think about it is I'm starting from left to right. I'm just going to do that this whole project. My first two squares, I'm always going to get the right square and flip it over to the other square. This makes sense more, especially like if you have it facing you, like let's say I want it to be like this. And so I can always see the pattern. Like I'll never have to worry like, oh, what side's the ugly side? Make sure I'm sewing on that side. If I have it laid out how I want it to look in the row, I'm always just going to get the square on the right and flip it over to the left. That's always just the easiest thing. And then if you're like me and you want to just like double remind yourself, I'm just going to do a little marking. So I remember that's where I need to sew. And now we're just going to do the running stitch, just like we did for our pillow. Again, not getting too close to the edge. That's never going to be a good thing. Try to line up my squares as best as possible, as best as I can. I don't cut perfectly. Darn you, kindergarten. One day I'll be a better cutter. Okay. Just like before, whatever side your thread's coming out of, that's the side your needle's going to go back in. And if you're working on your triangles, just get those triangles ready. Whatever triangles you have in that row, do that today. You know, get the diagonals sewn back together because it's going to be the same thing. You're going to want to not be too close to the edge. You're going to want to do the double stitch, you know, the running stitch twice. And then Monday, I'll go over this part again because then you'll be ready. You'll start, you know, you'll have your first square and your second square ready. Okay, so I'm at the top of my row. You know, I just did that first running stitch row. And so now I'm going to turn around and sew another row. Basically, I'm gonna go back to the beginning. Oh, there's a knot. If this happens, like I found this knot, there we go. Kind of close to where I started, I'll fix it. And it's almost like fixing shoelaces. I'll just go and slowly pull these tight. Because again, I don't want to have a gap. I don't want to have a gap in my quilt. Oops. Well, this one tight. Okay, that's not too bad. Let me check. No, it's not too bad. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to get my second row of running stitches. And again, my stitches aren't teeny tiny, like, well, except for that first one. I don't know what happened there. But they're kind of large. It's really just having that second row is gonna help you get a nice clean joint. I just finished my second row. My second row of running stitches. And I'm just doing these first two squares, the orange and the platinum, combining those two. Ending it exactly the same. Again, it's always going to be the same. To start it, you need the fly knot. To end it, you need that through the loop knot. Slide my needle underneath the stitch, whatever stitch is closest. I always hold on to the loop because I'll lose it. Needle goes through the loop. Pull, pull, pull. And then again, slide underneath through the loop. And you pull. So now that first two, those first two are done. Okay, so I need a second plaid. Like that's my next one. I'll get this one. I gotta get my needle ready. So I have my third one. The only cautionary tale I give with adding the next one on, because when you're dealing with two, it's just the two. When you're putting in the third, the fourth, the fifth, the ones that you've already finished get in the way, or they try to like it's harder to hold and and all that stuff. So here's my reminder. Same thing. Now I'm gonna get the third. I'm gonna lay it on top of the second. What I care about is that edge that's gonna be attached, really. I don't care that this is hanging off. You see how it's like a little bit longer and it's going on to the orange? It doesn't matter because this new square and the orange, they're not gonna interact with each other. So all I really care about is making sure that this edge is as flush as I can get it, as close to, being equal. And then really all I'm looking is just to make sure that the sides are in line. If I'm having my square and it's like slightly off like this, okay, well that's gonna be weird once we finish sewing. So I'm just gonna line up, because again, I don't cut perfectly. I'm gonna line up edge to edge, the second square and the third square. And then just kind of check, make sure that the top and bottom are also kind of lined up, that they're not too crazy. And then because the other ones kind of, I don't want to say distract me, but they kind of like get in the way with my hands, I do the same thing I did with the pillow. I'll kind of I'll get my needle where I want it to start, and I'll kind of push it into the table and then pull the fabric through. So that way the fabric doesn't move on me when I'm trying to push the needle in, especially because I'm getting the needle in a corner. It's not right at the corner, but the fabric is always going to get like a little slippery. And then we just continue, just like we did with the first one. Running stitch. Again, not sewing too close to the edge. Oh, line up. And I'm trying to follow my line as best as possible. No one's gonna see these stitches. Again, remember, they're hidden. No one's gonna see them. I'm not too worried. I'm more concerned about having like knots like I did on that last one. If you find that holding, because especially when we get down to the fifth one, if you find that this like extra fabric kind of gets in your way or makes it hard to hold your fabric, same thing like what I told those that are doing the diagonal. Put a paper clip on and it'll just hold the fabric in place. Because what I care about is the third and the second piece. I don't care that the orange and the third are kind of being weird together. I really just care that the second and the third are lined up. So if I put a paper clip, a bobby pin, really anything that just like sandwiches them together, then I don't have to worry about holding on so tightly. I can just worry about where I'm sewing. Okay, I'm gonna get to about right there, kind of like as close to the top as I can get it. Same thing, I did that first row. Now I'm gonna continue on to my second row of running stitch. Basically, I'm just sewing back to where I started. If your fabric is thick, like my plaids, it's very, very thick. So it's kind of hard to get the needle through. Just, take your time. Don't worry. Also, I wouldn't use the table to push your needle through the fabric. I've done that, and I've also accidentally jammed the needle through my nail. So don't do that. So we end the same way, slide the needle underneath the stitch, whatever stitch is closest. Again, it doesn't matter. Catch the loop, needle through the loop, pull, 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 out of there. And then I do it again. Remember, you always got to do it twice. Once isn't a knot yet. It's like when you first start tying your shoelaces. That first tie, it doesn't make it. You got to do the second one. Wow. No. So what I want you guys to notice, if you see, especially these little stragglers, they'll like pull out. When you look at the second square, it's kind of skinny. It's getting smaller. Don't worry about the ends, because those will always look a little bit larger, because we don't have the, what is it called? The frame. When we first looked at our sketch, I made you guys use the pencil to kind of put that box around it. We're going to have another piece of fabric that's going to go on the back of the whole entire quilt. So that's going to make this one even out. So don't worry that this one's really big and then all the ones in the middle look skinny. Your quilt's gonna get smaller. Your pieces look big, but they'll get smaller as we start attaching them. So we have the third, same thing with the fourth. Again, just to be consistent, what I'm gonna do is, there's no pretty side, ugly side, but I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna flip my fourth onto my third, and then just line up that edge. Again, I don't care how it looks with the blue, with the orange squares. I really just care about the plaid that it's gonna be connected to. Line up the edges, kind of check the top and the bottom, that it's not super wonky. I'm gonna put on my paper clip right away. And so you just keep going, keep going, keep going. So I'm gonna stop here. What you're gonna do is go into Classroom, Google Classroom, into the classwork tab, obviously. And you're just gonna show me what you have so far. Maybe you just attached the first two squares. Maybe you finished cutting out your squares. Maybe you finished drawing your sketch. I just wanna see where everyone is in the class. And it's not like, oh, unless you haven't been doing anything. Even then, even if you're like, so Miss Archunde, I don't have my stuff yet. I haven't gotten the fabric, so I haven't started. Even if the photo is you with the thumbs up, and this is the hopeful, I will start soon, Miss Arjunde, that's fine too. I just want to see who's where. Where is everyone? So you're just going to post a photo of where you are so far.